Oh, hello, Fire Abundance Swarm. Lingsha is right around the corner in HSR 2.5, and with her banner, there's a very obvious discussion about her value as opposed to the magical beast that is Gallagher, who falls within a very similar niche as this brand new 5-star character. Both of them are Fire Abundance characters who find immense value in break-oriented teams, but they do very much have their differences, and there's quite a bit to consider with regard to which one you should be investing in or spending your money on, especially if you already have Gallagher. So with that said, this video will discuss everything you need to know about Lingsha and Gallagher in 2.5, from what makes them similar to where they strongly differ, and how that all relates to which of them will generally be stronger for your specific account. Before we begin, please subscribe if this video helps you because it very much helps my channel. So, to begin this video, I believe it's important to first discuss the similarities between these two characters and their strengths that fall generally within the same niche. Both Lingsha and Gallagher are break-oriented characters who provide value through utility like team-wide heals, considerable toughness damage, and buffs to the team's own break damage. In this regard, they're both functionally reaching for the same outcome in teams like Firefly Super Break, Boot Hill Super Break, etc, and they can both consolidate the team's sustain as well as buffing. Gallagher's healing happens to be applicable through his skill, his burst debuff, and his enhanced basic attack, whereas Lingsha's heals are tied to her skill, her ultimate, and more interestingly, her Fuyuan summon. When she summons her Fuyuan Fire Bunny thing, it'll gain a place in the action queue and will periodically pounce on all enemies on the field, which does deal damage, but it also heals all allies based on Lingsha's attack and dispels one debuff from all allies. The important thing to note about this is that Lingsha's A6 passive is essentially a get out of jail free card for the team, since it states that anytime an ally's HP is lowered to 60% or less, her summon will immediately take action, meaning she'll sneak in some extra damage and perform a team-wide debuff, dispel, and a heal. That alone makes it quite apparent that Lingsha has the potential to provide frequent team-wide debuff dispels, which is very nice, but the strength of her healing itself, based on the scaling we were able to see in her 2.5 event trial, does not explicitly outperform Gallagher's own healing potential overall. Hers just happen to have the potential to be more frequent if you manage Fuyuan's actions well enough, and they're always team-wide with a side of considerable personal damage. Gallagher's raw healing output can often outperform Lingsha's in scenarios where your teammates make really efficient use of his besotted debuff heals, and again, his heals are typically more potent than Lingsha's, which is especially valuable if you often have teammates on life support, but again, Lingsha has her own advantages and mechanics to make up for this too. Lingsha's heals are almost exclusively tied to her own actions, save for the times where her summon will act for her, and Gallagher's heals are tied to his own actions on top of the actions of all of his teammates, who can enjoy a heal by attacking enemies inflicted with his besotted debuff. This means that in regards to being a good healer for your team, Gallagher will feel friendlier across many niches, especially those in which your teammates act very fast or have good AoE. He's a versatile support and a very standard healer, so outside of break teams, there aren't any particular team archetypes where he's a must-have, but his heals alone do make for quite a comfortable gameplay experience. Lingsha, on the other hand, will likely feel most useful in places like break teams, where her personal damage can really shine alongside her sustained capabilities, but also in follow-up teams, where frequent attacks and follow-up chains are important for your teammates. Not to mention too, she might be useful in future archetypes, but that's a conversation I'll save for just a bit later in the video. And so, since these two characters are so similar in terms of healing potential, I'd say the biggest advantage Lingsha has over Gallagher in this regard is that her heals are always team-wide, and so is the debuff dispel mechanic when her summon is the one doing the healing. Also, the fact that her summon will immediately perform a team-wide heal whenever an ally's HP drops to 60% or lower. The advantage that Gallagher has over Lingsha, though, is that his heals can be tied to the team's ability to attack quickly or attack multiple enemies simultaneously, and his own heals can generally be a bit more potent than Lingsha's, despite the fact that he doesn't have a built-in get-out-of-jail heal mechanic for his teammates. But anyway, let's pivot the conversation towards their glaring differences as characters, because there's an interesting discussion to be had here. So, Gallagher is notoriously quite a strong enabler because he has his besotted debuff for enabling more team-wide break damage, and more importantly, his kit is extremely SP positive and comes with some interesting mechanics that allow him to battery his team exceptionally well. Where exactly does Lingsha stand in this regard? Well, the first thing you'll notice is that Lingsha's ultimate possesses its own Befog debuff, which is similar to Gallagher's Besotted debuff, except the amount of break damage vulnerability she inflicts on enemies is more than 2 times higher than Gallagher's, which is quite nice, as you can imagine. But outside of this quite hefty break damage bonus, Lingsha does not provide any other notable utility to her team at E0 outside of her healing and her debuff dispels. She's not particularly SP friendly, and she does not have access to the battery techniques that make Gallagher so unbelievably potent in many teams. She must instead make up for this lack of utility with her personal damage, her B-Fog debuff, and her healing. Gallagher, on the other hand, is notoriously SP friendly, and on top of this, he has a mechanic up his sleeve that makes him a valuable energy asset in just about any team you sneak him into. Because his kit provides him with a full action advance when casting his ultimate, he can wield the quid pro quo light cone with effectively double the efficiency of your typical abundant support character, allowing him to battery a significant amount of ultimate energy to his teammates while simultaneously providing positive SP economy, since he can basic attack, ultimate, basic attack enemies quite often in any given battle. This is also, in my opinion, the mechanic that low-key propelled him from a decent 4-star when he first released into a top-tier support across all in-game modes currently, because it's a kind of utility that is not tied to his niche, which is break teams, but rather tied to whoever needs energy and SP, which, surprise surprise, is most teams in the game. So in terms of who provides better value to the team as an enabler, you can safely assume it is Gallagher. What Gallagher has over Lingsha in this department is a notoriously SP positive playstyle and a mechanic with a completely free to obtain light cone that essentially turns him into a battery support for his entire team, and both of those values are things that Lingsha cannot replicate. She needs to use her skill sometimes to speed up her summon and provide emergency heals to the team, but far more importantly than that, her summon cannot restore SP, nor can it trigger things like quid pro quo, so she will not have the luxury of being a team-wide battery or an SP printer. And with that in mind, I want to discuss a few of the major considerations you will need to make about Lingsha before pulling for her in 2.5 HSR. It's clear that Lingsha fits several interesting niches, one of which being the break archetype, and she fits it quite well, but she also has access to an archetype that I do not at all think we've seen the last of: summons. Hoyoverse has already released a planar set which is oriented around buffing summons, and now they've released Lingsha, whose entire kit revolves around her Fuyuan summon, and that leads me to believe that in the near future, she'll find immense value in upcoming teams if and when Hoyoverse fully fleshes out the summon archetype. Obviously, I don't know what that'll look like or how valuable Lingsha will be in those archetypes because, well, I can't see into the future, although I wish I could. What I can say though is that Honkai Star Rail is not a stranger to releasing premium supports for an archetype before that archetype is actually fleshed out. Ruan-Mei is a great example of this, because as good as she was before characters like Boot Hill, Gallagher, Harmony MC, and Firefly came out, once they did come out and fully established the break archetype, Ruan-Mei's value absolutely skyrocketed, and it was already quite high. And while I do believe Lingsha was specifically tailored to be good inside of the break meta, just as Gallagher is, I don't think her value inside of this meta wildly supersedes Gallagher's. I personally think her major value will reside in the future, where summons are a bigger deal and she can find more incomparable value for her Fuyuan summon. Her scaling and her personal damage is quite nice. Her heals are reliable and frequent, she provides a team-wide debuff dispel every time her summon attacks, and she provides double the break damage increase that Gallagher does, so it shouldn't be a surprise that she'll work perfectly fine and quite well in and outside of break teams. But at E0, she is not a substantial upgrade from Gallagher, and I don't think she'll find incomparable value as a limited 5-star until we see a fleshed out summon archetype. Which leads me into my final point of the video: who is the stronger character in 2.5, Gallagher or Lingsha? Lingsha provides an interesting and unique playstyle while acting as a 5-star sustain unit, but she also provides pretty good personal damage, great team-wide utility, and a significant buff to break damage. Gallagher, on the other hand, provides a similar experience with a far more straightforward kit, more supportive utility at his disposal at the cost of personal damage, generally similar healing capabilities, and significantly more enabling through SP economy and ultimate energy generation. So my genuine consensus is they're really just side grades of one another. I would not say Gallagher is stronger than Lingsha, but I also wouldn't say Lingsha is stronger than Gallagher, at least not in 2.5 with the current character roster at our disposal. She certainly does have advantages over him, and I'm of the impression that players who have higher than average financial investment on their break teams will find more value in Lingsha than they will in Gallagher overall, but Gallagher is a far more accessible character to have. And for regular investment scenarios, he performs very similarly as Lingsha, and in some aspects even better than Lingsha, being able to enable teams in ways that she simply cannot do. With that all in mind, I'd say if you really want to push for maximum damage ceilings and high financial investment, Lingsha is definitely a character to consider, and she'll likely feel more rewarding than Gallagher for players who can afford the teams and investment she requires. Plus, if you'd like to bank on the fact that she'll probably be a notable sustained teammate for summon teams in the future, there's that bonus too. But if you're only looking at Lingsha as a Gallagher upgrade or a 5-star Gallagher or a replacement for him in your break teams and other teams, I would advise really considering his value before spending your Stellar Jades to replace replace him. He consistently performs at some of the highest levels of the entire character roster and has done so for several months now. He's far easier to obtain than a limited 5-star unit, and he provides many kinds of utility that Lingsha cannot provide. Kinds of utility that any team would make great use of, not just break teams. So do with all that information what you will. I'm not at all telling you who to pull for or trying to persuade your opinions. I'm simply laying out facts and information so that you can decide for yourselves if Lingsha will be stronger for you than Gallagher, and if she's worth pulling for with that in mind. If this video helped you in any way though, please consider subscribing and also join my Discord server, because I'd love to hang out with you sometime. Anyway, I'm gonna go chain myself up so that I don't get tempted to waste my Acheron funds on Lingsha or Topaz. I'll see you in the next video.